If you have ever heard someone talk about how batching tasks is like the secret to superhuman productivity, but you yourself burn out whenever you try to do it yourself, this video right here is for you. So stick around, and if you're here, comment or say hi with what type of work that you want to batch or have tried to batch in the past. And if you have tried to batch in the past, let me know how it went for you. I'm going to be talking about my own experiences with batching tasks, both the good and the bad, why batching works in the first place so that you have a better understanding of the mechanics behind it when deciding to do it for yourself. And I'm going to be talking about why batching can sometimes lead to burnout and how you can prevent that for yourself. If you're joining me for the first time, I am Brittany Berger, the founder of WorkBrighter.co, and this is the Brighter Broadcast, your 10-minute-ish tip to work brighter and live smarter this week. Batching for productivity, like among entrepreneurs and productivity experts, is kind of like what Windex is to the dad on My Big Fat Greek Wedding. You all remember that movie, right? It's looked at as kind of a cure-all, no matter the problem. Like in the movie, you have a bug bite, put some Windex on it. You have a pimple, put some Windex on it. You're balding, put some Windex on it. And I feel like batching is treated the same way a lot of times. Like not creating content, batch it. Inbox getting out of hand, batch it. Want to start a YouTube channel, batch it. Want to launch a product, batch it, right? It's everywhere, and it's kind of just thrown out as kind of generic advice. But obviously, no productivity technique is actually one size fits all, and that is what working brighter is all about. Finding the best ways to work for you and no one but you. So, there's a good and a bad time for batching, and that's what we're talking about today. Because bad batching can lead to a bad burnout. Before we dig into the nitty-gritty and why it's sometimes mistaken for something it's not, let's get into what batching actually is, shall we? So, batching is just anything when you group tasks together based on anything that they have in common. So you might batch work based on what app or software it's performed in. Like you might say you're doing a ConvertKit batch of work and you're doing all types of work. What they have in common is that they take place in ConvertKit. So that's an example of batching something based on the tool or platform that you use for it. Or let's say you actually have to go offline for a bunch of different types of tasks and batching all of that together and shutting your computer down. That's a type of batching. You can also batch work based on what type of work it is. That's a really common one. So for example, batch creating content or batch replying to emails. So that's a pretty straightforward and popular type of batching as well. But then there's also like batching based on what type of people are involved. If you ever save up certain types of work for or certain decisions to be made until you have your next mastermind call or your next meeting with your business strategist or your coach or your virtual assistant, that is like batching decisions or certain conversations. And so that's a type of batching work as well. So batching is this really kind of general thing, pretty straightforward when you hear it in context, like batching context, batching emails, you get the idea. If you do not, feel free to leave a comment below. And I feel like what we don't talk about a lot is why actually batching works. And I'm not going to get into like the actual brain science because it is brain science and I'm not going to pretend to understand brain science. But I have read a lot of books. I don't have one within reach, but I've read a lot of books about it. And I love reading about kind of the psychology behind productivity and habits and why we do things and that side of productivity, which is really where batching kind of comes in. So let's talk about why batching works. Brain science. It pretty much comes down to ease, momentum, and attention. In Bjerg terms, ease. Batching might make work easier. And so in that case, it will help your productivity. It might also just give you momentum and make you work faster. So even if it's not like mentally easier or less challenging, it might still also be faster. And finally, it has to do with attention. If you've heard about like the cost of context switching, that's like a big hype thing used to scare people into being productive. If you've heard about context switching, which is basically how your brain, every time it switch tasks or switch contexts that it's working and thinking in, every time it switches, it has to like rev back up. And think about like how when you're driving, how you have to slow down to take turns and exits and on-ramps and merges. You have to slow down in order to speed back up. And so when you do a lot of context switching, it's like changing lanes or making turns or switching highways. Oh, this is a weird analogy. So every time you switch tasks, you've got to slow down and speed back up again, and it can be end up with some lost productivity. Of course, not all types of work need those 3 specific types of boosts. Sometimes batching is the magic that we talk about it being all the time. Sometimes, though, batching makes no difference. And sometimes batching can have the opposite effect, and it can actually make you less productive and make you burnt out. Why does bad batching lead to burnout? And because batching doesn't always create less work for you. Like I said before, it's all about organizing your ease, your momentum, and your attention. So if one of those 3 things are not one of the reasons that a certain task is difficult for you, it's not actually going to create less work for you. Sometimes it's just rearranging the work. So for example, batch creating content, for example, like for written content especially, it's not actually less work. You're just rearranging the work. So say instead of writing 500 words per day for 5 days, you're writing all of that at once. So that's not actually less work, it's rearranging the work. And so sometimes that might be what you need and sometimes it might not. But just be aware, it's a rearranging work, not actually making less of it. Now, an example of when batch creating content would actually mean less work for you is, for example, if you are creating video content and you have a big set to set up and take down, and that takes you like 30 minutes each time. Because then every separate time that you go to record a video, there's an hour of setup and breakdown. However, if you batch content, you're only doing the setup and takedown once. So written content and video content are 2 very different things. When you're considering whether or not you want to rearrange this work for yourself, you have to consider your energy. It's one of the Work Brighter values and one of the things we focus on a lot in the Clubhouse is that understanding your energy, not like your systems or your to-do list, understanding your energy is what unlocks true productivity. So let's look at one type of batching that really burns me out. Batching videos. Like I said before, that is one of the rare types of batching content that actually creates less work for you because, or for me at least, because I have setups, I've got lights, I do my hair and makeup, which is, oh my god, such a to-do. Any other curly girls know how much of a big deal a wash day is. It's a lot less work to be able to batch videos and record and create multiple pieces of video content in one day. However, once I look at the energy, that's actually a really, really bad idea. And just for me personally, I want to give a shout out to Trina Little, who I learned all things video from, and she records like 10 videos in one day, which to me is just mind-boggling. But that's just because we have different energies. For me, I can easily write, and I do write, thousands of words per day. And that's fine. That does not exhaust me. However, when I go to record a video, even though it's just like a 15-minute video, that takes it out of me. I am, no lie, after these weekly live streams, every week I go take a nap. That's what's going to happen. Right after this, I'm already in my t-shirt and my sweatshirt. I'm in sweatpants. It's going to be so easy. However, writing a lot of times, like a lot of people, I know I have friends who like can write an Instagram post per day and that's enough. They need a break. And that's fine because they're out there doing other stuff and they just shouldn't batch content and writing. And so it's just all about understanding your energy and then looking at tasks and saying, will this work combined with my energy, does it need a boost in momentum, ease, or attention? And that's how you can really figure out if batching the tasks you're looking at and considering will actually make you more productive or bad batching burnout. So it's normally a bad idea to batch tasks that take a lot of energy, because even though it might be creating a little less work for yourself, it often doesn't build up the momentum. It doesn't get a benefit in that area, and it's an energy drain. And so, for example, I go take a nap after live streams. If I tried to batch a lot of videos in one day, I would just be totally burnt out the next day, and I'd be like useless, which is what happens when I try to do that. The same thing goes with batching phone calls and Skype calls. I am like done for the week if I have to do more than 3 calls in one day, and I can never have two calls back to back. It just does not work. I'm like a mess on the second call. I can't follow my train of thought, and it's just like a disaster. So for me, what works a lot better is just setting aside like a 1-hour window every single day where I have availability for calls. And so I'm still setting aside the same amount of time for calls as if I was batching one whole day, but it's spread out throughout the week. And so again, you can go watch the energy management live stream if you want to talk more about energy, but that's what it all comes down to. So batching is really all about energy management, not so much time or task management as it's often chalked up to be. And if you are really, really interested in learning more about unlocking your energy, understanding that so that you can batch tasks and plan your days and weeks more strategically, Work Brighter Clubhouse is my membership community for creative professionals who do want to work brighter, ditch the hustle mindset, and just be surrounded by people who will help you live better and not just become a better entrepreneur. The core challenge in the Work Brighter Clubhouse, which I will link to so you can learn more about the challenges, but the core challenge is all around auditing and reflecting on your energy. I've got a great workbook and challenge put together for you. And that's the core of the Clubhouse. So if you want to really take your energy management to the next level so that batching and stuff becomes all the more useful, make sure to check out the Clubhouse below. Oh, I don't like how my hair is parted right now. Speaking of attention, not great with that right now. But me losing my attention span might actually be a great sign that it's time to log off.